Magic man.
Oh, so I'll leave the back door unlocked?
Yeah.
You guys will lock it up.
Side doors locked?
Side door should be locked.
Okay.
Gotta go.
What?
Say hi to Bill.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay, thank you.
I shall.
Okay. We're live. We're up in business. Let's get out our agendas. And right now, we're just doing a simple, as I understand, the only thing we want to talk about tonight is the town plan. So taking a look at any additions or subtractions from the agenda.
No, nothing for me.
Nothing? Okay, then, all those in favor of accepting the minutes as they are, say aye. Opposed? Anybody abstain? Okay, the minutes have been accepted. Is there anything we need to put into the minutes here at the beginning of the meeting that we want to talk about?
Into the agenda?
Well, if we want new business, you have to bring it up. I mean, you want to put something on the agenda or make a change. You got to do it at the beginning of the meeting. Nothing?
Town plan.
Okay, I have a question for you that I'd like you to answer. If you don't mind. I spent a little time looking at what's called hip camp.
I know about it.
You know about it.
Did it?
You've done it. Great. It looks like a good deal. I may do it myself sometime.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, looking at the town plan, do we need to create something there that identifies that folks in wheeled vehicles are going into prepared spaces within the village on short-term rentals?
And it's not all just wheeled vehicles. You can set up your tent.
Yeah. So it's wheeled vehicles that.
Or just camping. It's just like a tent.
So you can tent it, but you can't wheel in your fifth wheeler?
I don't know about fifth wheelers. I mean, but doesn't it matter where you are or what the rules are? Here's the idea behind it, if I can expand a little.
Thank you for
Okay.
that, yeah.
I think someone out west realized there were ranches and a lot of pro agency Native American lands. And, you know, it's pretty expansive.
Yeah,
Why not have people allow tenting? Or I guess bring in a RV on some of this land. And so we did that at the Crow Agency at Little Bighorn. Right
yeah,
on the river. And then stayed in a yurt, which was also made available through the camp.
yeah.
So I think it's a variety of what do you say, modalities of camping.
Is it a short-term rental? And does the landowner have to be need to be present when we have short-term rentals?
Ted, this is a brand new subject.
It is a brand new subject.
Yeah.
But it landed right on me.
Is there something that has stirred this up in the last?
I bumped into it looking at town of Heartland, and this stuff popped up. And there are two, there's the Hearth something or other, and there's hip camping. And they've got a whole website, they've got a whole idea about rules, they got a whole idea about how to approach people to get permission if you need to. And if we're gonna discuss this thing, if we're gonna do anything with it, then we ought to know whether or not we're gonna do something with it. Is it a short-term rental or is it not?
I guess the bigger question is, maybe since we have very pressing business on the plan that we have,
Yeah,
and since this hasn't come up, then let's put it on how about you, if you want to do it, why don't you research it a little bit and come back at the next meeting or when we have time to look at it?
I will do that.
I'd even go one step further, not to the next meeting. I would say that we clean up and finish up what we have.
Indeed.
A town plan can always be modified or amended or added to. That we, because our timeline is short now.
Yes,
That we get what we have through. Still do homework on what you have, but I think that's also another conversation that probably would do well, maybe at the select board level in addition. And that if it's something that we think, we collectively think as a town that should tie into our town plan, then after we have the town plan approved, then we can come back and take a look at it and modify it. I'm more interested in trying to clean up what we have, not lose sight of this, but not take a detour on it right now.
that makes sense to me. In terms of discussion, there are no motions on the table. So, we'll just sit this to one side, and in the meantime, I'll do some looking. And I'll have something for you to look at some point in the future. When the town plan is not our immediate focus. The plan we're trying to get to the select board.
That would be best for me.
Okay.
Thanks.
General agreement?
Sure.
Yeah, I have agreement. I like to think quickly, and there are other things that are similar to this. And I know over in Maine, group in the Carabasset Valley over there that runs cabins, right, or something or other, and the Ambroses are going over there next summer to spend a week volunteering and that sort of thing. That's what resonated with in my mind. So I agree. I wouldn't jump in and look at one or two or three of those alternatives, but I think we'd be damn fools if we didn't think about whether a paragraph or something other in the present draft plan wasn't advantageous, but I don't think we need to do it today.
I think there is language that we have included in this draft that at least would allow for a test to hold up all these different examples and see how they might fall. And then as circumstances really call for it, then if we need to make a modification, then so be it. Otherwise, let it stand as is and see what the feedback comes from our open hearings and see what the select board says and then go from there.
Yeah, that's a problem. There are 3 in town. And it would be, yeah.
Someone
Or invite
re-raise
them to
the
come in
issue.
and tell us about it or something. I mean, one of them I know is bringing horses in and providing camping opportunities down in the back. And also has a B&B in the house. And so it's becoming quite a little enterprise. All right, so much for that. Then, without any other ideas, let's begin on getting this thing finished up.
I just want one final comment. Does anybody have anything that they think would be gained by having it appear in the minutes that we at least saw this and so forth? I'm not saying that that's the case, but if there was something that would be in the best interest of the town or this commission to have it for some reason being.
Well, if you want to make a motion detailing me to look this up and report it sometime in the next couple of meetings, we could do that, and then it's in the minutes.
No, it's gonna be in the minutes anyway.
Yeah. Okay,
It was something we discussed and it will be a sentence or a sentence or that.
That's enough for me.
that's enough.
Yeah,
Okay, here we are.
which version are we on to now? Is that the November 13th one?
That's the last one I had. Is the
Yeah,
13th.
I did not send a new one out. I do have one that's marginally changed, but not enough to really be significantly different than what you
Okay.
have.
Okay,
And most of that change was some of the maps here, there, and that's really what I'm hoping that we can take a look at to get that positioned in the draft that we have, and then I'll send out a December 3rd, today's draft, based on our conversations and any follow-up that Jay would have specifically with the maps.
Okay, can we do maps now? I was quite surprised what the map looked like when I made the changes we talked about to add it on to the entire town overview. Started to see that it works. Where I can change it as best you can.
Really help us. Sounds like I'm doing the other thing.
The whole- Most of the changes that came about were because we wanted to have more land available in Heartland for commercial, not commercial, all those sorts of things. So if you remember, we called it a few months ago, but when you look at the whole map, they're tiny. And if we ever went and we told the town, oh, we've created more land for commercial purposes, they'd say, huh? So here's one. Here's 12, tiny. 8 properties or so. The one above Gilson Road, pretty small, another 8 or 9 properties. We have this one here that we turned into a different category. You know, it's there. And then, if you remember, we were going to shrink the villages and take the shrinkage portion of what we took from the villages. We were going to add it into a form of rural residential. So one thing I did was because it's easy to do this by hand rather than on the computer, just because the property lines are too small to see and you can't efficiently make a map that way. So I did it on the cutout basis. So as you can see, that is the old village. So we reduced the village probably by, I don't know, 75%. Well, everything that's now designated in this new, so this would go with this, if I got it right, if everybody's in agreement. And then the other thing that we did, we were going to take the rural residential that really was the Rice Road and turn it into rural. So now you see our map, for better or for worse, but does it really accomplish what we wanted to do by increasing certain areas? Pretty small. There's an unknown, or there's a question that I have. If this turns to rural, well, we need to make a break between rural residential and that, and it seemed to me that, by the way, I tried to find a pea green crayon. I could not find one, so
Oh,
bear with me.
You didn't
Sorry.
have the 64.
I got a 128 home if you want to look at mine.
So I would propose that this little piece up here, since it's contiguous with that, that we just make that, we make this also rural residential, even though it doesn't have a lot of possibilities, but at least it does. And that the rural really that overhangs or intermingles with the upper part of Martinsville and other places, you know, would be rural like everything else. So I tried to keep the white as rural, pea green is rural residential, and then there's a slight difference between this and this.
Was there, sorry.
What's this dot here?
That's about Damon Home.
Okay, sorry.
No. Was there a little bit on the other side of Route 12 at one point?
Other
Here.
side. As I recall, Dan said that should be eliminated and be
Oh.
mistaken.
Oh, okay.
I mean, yeah, oh, yeah, that's right. You weren't here.
It's okay.
No.
Do you remember the reason why it would be eliminated?
I don't,
The
but
context or was
But if it was gonna be, we would add 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 more properties. It'd look bigger. I can't remember to tell you the truth. It came up a couple of meetings ago and I might have lost my bearing on it, but that's why it didn't show. I did. As you can see, these are the inserts that are gonna show, because you could never tell where property bounds in a large map. So if we go and we look at what you just said, the 4 corners, here's that little residential. And initially, there it is, right, that you mentioned. And I thought it was Dan that said, made a comment about it, but I may be completely wrong, so I can look at it, but that's how I got this, by taking these individual properties, but very difficult to locate them in the larger map.
It is amazing when you look at it on this scale here, it looks very promising.
Yeah.
And when you put it on the large scale, it gets lost. Painful.
I thought it was important to have this discussion tonight, because that would change a lot of the things at the town plan. Where things go, what the rules are, the rules of the game in these different sections. Could there be another section? I don't know, but it was an eye opener for me. And if you think about it, look at the forest is bigger than everything.
Yeah, I know, wish I was seeing so minuscule.
I know that doesn't address our particular goal, but I like to see all the forest.
Yeah, oh, yeah. I mean, actually, when you think about it, we have a huge industrial zone. I don't know if it makes sense to put acreages on the different districts or percentage of land in Heartland, or however the metric could be on it.
I mean, for the right industry, there certainly is area on that side of the tracks, but
You know, my person that works on my cars down in the old, on the other side of the tracks down here, and I go there quite often, and I look at all the buildings and all the land there, and all the wrecks of buildings, and in fact, you know.
There's a lot down there.
There's a lot down there, you know, I mean, and the other thing, as a matter of fact, that didn't show up on the map. We have the state recreation land down here too. That probably should go on as
Mhm.
another one.
Are you talking about the shooting range?
The shooting range, but below the shooting, I mean, that whole property.
So that's state recreation land?
Yeah, so fish and wildlife.
Huh.
Yeah, it doesn't get used for anything below the shooting range.
Mhm.
Not at this meeting, but at the previous meeting when you were giving birth to this thing. I said, well, I wonder what the reaction is gonna be in town. And I'm still wondering that.
I'm wondering more this afternoon than I did this morning.
What's that?
I'm wondering more now than when I started this morning to lay it out, if that's what you meant.
Yeah, well, that's the fact that you could say this at this point in time, 24 hours after, less than 24 hours after this morning. You know, I'm still wondering.
I know, are there any other types of district we would like to create? We could just. Oh, what's what we got?
I'm going to say, given where we are in the process, we have to go with what we have so far, even though it feels like we didn't change an awful lot. But I think the other place that some change has taken place is in the language around what each area, how it could be assessed. And that might open up somebody else who's looking at this from a different vantage point to say, you know, you've written the language here that works, and that might work over here as well. We could hear that in an open hearing, which would be very useful for someone who is sort of now looking at, here's the recipe and here's what I can make, and they'll say, well, I can put it in this particular loaf pan versus this pie tin or something like that. I think even though the map to me, the word disappointing is the wrong word, but it just, I was hoping for a little more expansive possibility, but I think our language has given that a life of its own too, because the language, I think, is clearer and a little more options within.
Okay, the only other thing I could add to the conversation, not to the map, is I know that we have three different definitions. We have the modified RR, we have the mixed use.
Issues.
I'm wondering, I don't know if it's just for PR value. The other road is Highland Preachy.
Yeah, we talked about that.
And if we wanted to come back in and say, create, maybe not a pea green, but you know, a bluish green or whatever, and color it in, add, you know, something that's less restrictive than rural, but not a no development at all concept. I mean, that would be relatively easy to do.
So it wouldn't be mixed use.
Could be, no, I guess maybe it's just up us to think, is there something in between rural residential and rural and mixed use? Or is, you know, you might not want to see mixed use up here, but if you had a more restrictive, let's say, or less restrictive rural, and you had another larger section. And then, as you say, but the basis of it is how it's described in the text.
On Route 5.
Yeah,
Okay, so this goes up to where?
this really goes up to the farm, to White's
White's?
Farm.
To
No,
the White, I was wondering where, yeah, because White's,
don't forget all this, don't forget this is interstate right away.
yeah, okay. So White's and then where the guy used to work on cars,
Yes,
Yeah, Tony's.
he's up. here.
Tony's, okay, and so the people with the canine business, is that inside the village?
I believe so.
Mhm.
I'm not sure. I think so.
I think so. I mean, based on that line, it seems like it's pretty close to there.
Um, What I would need, whenever we get to the point where we know what we want to do, I'll go back and, but I really need to go to Two Rivers, the map guy, and say, hey, listen, I'm gonna give you, I'll give him something like this, but I don't know if he's gonna want, I don't know what he's gonna want for input so that he can do a more professional one.
Right,
If we're in a rush, and who knows what the select board's gonna do, or what the people, the town people wanna do. I could take this map, put something else on it, take this and scan it as a, with these as good inserts. And just come up with one for purposes of public meeting. Or introduction to the town, or introduction to the select board. But I don't want to go through that exercise until we figure out, is there another blob to add?
So the question is whether or not we take the far end of the Queechee Road and make it some kind of a residential area that is yet unnamed.
Not residential, it's residential anyways.
what? Does it make any sense to revisit how we describe rural residential?
So that's what I was thinking.
Which would at least open an option for something.
Or we sit here and we say, hey, Heartland, Heartland Queechee Road, let everybody have a garage, or, they're within so many feet of the road, have them a home-based business.
I know we talked about this before, but Jeff Wynant's Auto Barn.
Yeah.
Would be further on,
Yeah,
up Route 12, right?
Yeah.
And then the guy beyond him who does, I don't know what,
Firewood,
firewood,
yeah.
and maybe a little plowing or something.
nice idea. But it's gonna be, we're gonna add that size and that size and that size. It's not I
Mhm.
suppose that every little drop helps. but-
So I've been holding back, watching this, but and I got good friends there. And they're above average on their interest in what's going on in the community and so forth. And I've been wondering, how your birth process of this on a conceptual basis is where it's gonna rest, and I say our, because I'm a member of this group, obviously.
Thank you, George.
But you're.
It's
obviously
appreciated.
well. I can imagine all sorts of things. I can imagine that if this slips in and this work is there and people say, well, that's kind of interesting, but they're gonna go anyplace because, this is a small community and so forth. Or there will be a small number of people who will really be interested. And I think the success of the Ambroses with what they've done up there, and they've torn that building down, and Theo and Andrea have honest feelings that this is going to be a consequence of the town in terms of the recreation to it, and they're going to be really interested to know what this is, and the timeline is short. So that's where I'm coming right now. I'm not sure, number one, what it is, because somebody said that, well, we still need to do some work of conceptualizing this, I think. And then we need to try to probably strategize and with especially the select board. But I think we probably would need to think a little bit more about how this would be presented to the group of people from here to, let's just say 2.3 miles up the Heartland Creature Road.
Well, at the last meeting, we did have conversation and then decided we would not pursue changing anything on the Heartland Queechee Road.
Well, yeah, no, I'm aware of that, but is that really what's happening?
Well, for me, the reason it came up again was because as we started looking at our color coding here,
Yeah,
we were trying to figure out, well, how can we expand that color code, which brought us back to that conversation. I'm not convinced that is the direction we should go. However, are we going to say, no, we're satisfied with how we have described the different areas in town? We have paid attention to the text or the description for each of those to hopefully address previous concerns that were maybe not as clear, and that is the improvement in the town plan that we want to go with. And then over time, if something else comes up, it's a living document. You go back and have that conversation, but maybe not right now.
well, I pretty much said that my, trying to make it clear that I'm not clear in my thinking as to what I think this is and what it's going to be, but I sure as hell think it's not Queechee Road. It's the Heartland Queechee Road because of what the Heartland Queechee Road represents, which is a new super highway in town in some people's minds.
Yeah, the White River bypass.
We would just be enhancing that.
Yeah, and I think that's a tough argument to express without looking at it, and saying, well, it's operationally, that's, what it probably is to some extent. So I'll just lay that out because that's where my head is right now. I'm not clear that proceeding in the next 2 to 3 to 4 weeks or months with a done deed, this fashion is the thing to do. Now, if you want to, but I think we ought to discuss whether something like this, in order to get the issue on the table and have a logical process is maybe should be done. Let's just put it that way.
I'd like some clarification of the question. We're wandering a little bit and I'm getting lost. I'm sorry. So we're taking this area, we're looking at this area on Stump Hollow Road. Forgive me. On the Queechee Road. And we're trying to decide if it's rural residential, or mixed use. Is that correct?
Not exactly. We would, if you go back and look in the definitions, is there any leeway between what a rural residential, the rules are for that, as opposed to rural, as opposed to mixed use? Or is there a fourth definition we could create that would make it, make it apply to something has a bigger geographic area? I mean, what?
To do what? To do what? What do we want to do in that area?
To allow more activity, as opposed to, what people can do in the rural areas now. Now, I know there's a big problem because of Act 2, the Act 250 versus no Act 250. People can do whatever they want anyways. That's another obstacle.
Especially small type things.
Anyways, here's the map. I'm gonna go back and look at definitions. We don't have to lose progress on everything else. It doesn't involve a huge part of the town plan. Other than definitions in the map.
Because I don't know. I'm not inclined to support, let's make another area and define it. So if I can set that aside for a moment, do we have any flexibility within the description for any of our existing areas that would, provide some of those smaller opportunities that, quite frankly, currently exist all over town? Or does it make sense just to have the definitions that we have worked on, share those and the map with those people in Heartland or the select board or what have you, and have them say, oh, this looks fine, or, I'd like a little bit of, and then let them, I feel like I'm trying to recreate something that we've sort of landed on. And the only reason, at least from my perspective, that I'm even having the conversation again is when we looked at this picture here on this scale, it looked like that was nice. And then when you put it out and look at it on that one, it looks small. And yet that still is some size to it, even though it is not like a huge area, but at least it's trying to recognize the principles that we were trying to put forward within the town plan. And we're trying to give that flexibility there.
Yeah, the forum for what you suggest about having people comment is our first public.
That is correct.
Right.
So we take this map and we blow it up, present it, and say, hey, we were thinking of this. There's another possibility is to take this and turn it out here, or turn it over here. See what people
Yeah.
say.
Don't they call that a charrette? Then they can add their notes or comments. somewhere.
Should anybody attend? And
Yeah, that's the thing.
It's
Well,
okay,
yeah.
but we're giving them the
Yeah.
information that will allow them to
Yeah.
raise their question
I understand.
or voice their support.
If that's the way you want to pursue it, I don't have an issue with that. I'm gonna beautify this up a little bit and have a full scale.
And the conversation with Two Rivers would then,
Yeah.
would be useful to have as well.
Yeah,
I appreciate you doing this.
Start somewhere.
it's a lot of work.
Well, now that we've got it, I say that there is a value to this, and we shouldn't just toss it out and say, gee, Jay, thanks. We'll see you in the next,
Millennium.
Good planning.
So we're thinking of asking whoever is at the meeting what they would like to see there.
That's all right, I don't have to say. I think simply letting them know that over the past X number of years,
Yes,
we have revisited the description for these various areas.
right,
This is what we have landed on. This is what it looks like. Period. End of conversation on our end. What do you think? Don't plant things in their mind. Let them raise that question.
indeed.
Then if they say, well, what are the else, other things have you considered? Then maybe then share something in.
Yeah.
To start with, just tell them how we get to this point.
Yeah, we'll vary them in information and maybe,
I think the more likely thing to happen is somebody would decide that, the town, the community now has this areas that are identified with certain parts of the population. And would you like to talk about that? And maybe somebody will take that and decide, well, I'd like to build a big barn and sell sauerkraut.
And we had people at the hearing from the last time who came in and raised questions about a particular use that was available in their area and how they either liked it or were concerned about it. That's what those open hearings are for. And we take their thoughts, and if we need to make adjustments, fine. If not, it goes on to the select
or
board.
maybe we should just keep it simple.
I think so.
Well, keep it simple but real, right?
Yes, yes,
Yes,
yes,
yes.
yes.
Yeah, and then keep it simple was,
Well, we want to keep it simple without the S on the other end of it. The KISS principle, keep it simple, stupid.
so what I hear, we're growing to a consensus that says that, well, this is in its own ways valuable, and we need to talk more and maybe use it. And we don't want to put it on, what's the file system here, Jerry, that you talk about periodically? But I really think it's a valuable piece, but the limitation on it is that somehow or another, it doesn't seem to be as big proportionally as we'd like it to be. And I think the other one is that we're really creating a point here, a pressure point here of interest, and it really needs a little bit more of this stuff to make it.
Yeah, the other thing that needs to be discussed is our forest blocks. You have to distinguish where they are, because these forest blocks are essentially rural districts with a stipulation that there isn't some endangered species or other things on it. So these are more controlled than this. So there's no language saying what the green is, except maybe over here in the file. So little PR work to do on
Yeah.
this, looks like for presentation purposes.
Chair, I did have a question. I think maybe it just struck me. Is our conversation at one time, and maybe even ever so briefly, but it essentially connected three corners and four corners. As I look at that now, I don't see the villages connected enough. Which is, I understand that. But because I don't see the red, it makes it feel like a smaller area. Even though,
It is.
but what is that other green that's just next to that? Yes,
Oh, this is an extension of this.
oh, okay. It's not distinguished from it, okay.
No pea green crayon.
I
I don't know why they use that color, whatever. There will be, it will be more obvious in that.
okay.
So this is the pole property.
This is, includes the whole.
Yeah.
property. This better than, so you can see, and this is Route 5.
Mhm.
Okay,
12.
Oh, not 5, it's not
12.
And, I think I missed one. In our old rural residential, there were things, the old one, that were more restrictive than the current rural residential, that would allow things like, coal property to be developed for other, retirement communities.
Right.
things like that.
see, that to me, that's part of the, if you will, selling point. The map is wonderful and it's useful, but it's the text that we really worked on that clarifies, gives options, those kinds of things that might not have been as evident before. Now, it does give those sort of, do I use the word growth possibilities? You
The
know?
text does. Mhm.
Yeah, I think that is something that was sort of one of our, maybe where our focus sort of ended up going.
The thing is that a map is so visual, that's what
No
people
doubt.
will focus on.
Well, then maybe we have to wordsmith some of the definitions. So instead of a paragraph, there's bullet points. And if you put, well, I haven't thought about this, right? If you had those bullet points in the middle of the white area and say, you know, an arrow saying here and here and here, that you can do this, you can do that. And in this, you can say the difference is this. I'm just thinking of PR business.
It's all that at the end too, isn't it?
I'm sorry?
The definitions
Yeah.
are at the end.
Right.
Yeah.
So we need to be looking at the definitions.
Certain definitions and
Dan's done a good job.
in the text. I do believe that the back and forth has sort of refined that text so that it's much clearer now. And that,
Right.
I understand your bullet point idea too. If they're looking at this object, it'll answer their questions as they look at the object. I get that part of it.
Put the visual and the.
Or try to answer the question before it's asked.
Yeah, right.
Definitions.
No, that's up in.
Yeah,
the
they're not
chapter.
in the
It's up in
appendix.
the chapter.
Maybe they should be in the. Maybe it should be in the definitions, or is it gonna be too long?
I'm not worried about how long it's gonna be anymore.
Yeah. But wouldn't it make sense?
You could. It's like them making an index, if you will, almost. I'm not sure how much we really wanna, with definitions. That's like writing a different chapter from every chapter that's already been written.
Yeah, but I didn't necessarily mean to make bullet points in the text. I only meant for.
Oh, I understand
Yeah,
what you're saying.
right, we got it.
The other thing that's different on this map than anyone, and then others, the others that came before it, is that the parcels are there. So people always want to know, well, how does
Right,
this
where am
affect-
I?
How does this affect me? And so people, I don't think, I would say maybe only 10% folks are gonna look at that map and know which parcel is theirs.
Yeah.
So you can't put too much information on there, but I don't think there's any way you could, unless you put a number on each parcel and then had a separate list, but that might be too much information.
Well, and the tax maps and all that stuff.
Yeah, I do have a question here that relates. I have to go back and find out where it was. I have it right.
So mixed use here. It says these are the areas located on either side of Route 12 between the 3 corners and the 4 corners.
Yeah.
What do we get? Is that it?
Well, that's why it's mixed use and it's not village. And that's how we connected the two without connecting.
So shouldn't that be?
Yeah.
Green?
Yeah, to tell you the truth, I didn't go that far. I couldn't remember. Somebody corrected me on it before, but yes.
Oh. North beginning at Martinsville. Where's Martinsville? Here.
This is, I believe, the Martinsville Road here.
Okay, so mixed use would also be from, Route 5, beginning at Martinsville
Yes,
On
it's
the east
actually the intersection.
and Foxton Road on the west
Yes,
side.
that's here, that's this point here.
Okay, so it adds more.
It was like curved there.
Green.
And this, we decided we didn't want to include it in this because it's a steep hillside and it's in the right spot. So this one you could put it in the same color as this. People have to figure out. It's impossible to take every parcel and put it in its right position, if nothing more than the steepness of the slope or. That would.
Yeah. The question that your comment triggered was that there is a section in chapter 10. It's a highlighted section that I have written down here. Further forest block details as they relate to specific parcels of land will be available in the online Heartland Listers map in the near future.
Right.
That's not happened yet.
It's not the near future.
So I'm gonna take that out. Or should I leave it in as a future looking
Exactly.
thought?
Now, I have Stacy about that. She thought it was a good idea too. How you get from the lip to the sip.
Well, it went back to your conversation about the green in areas about what
Yeah.
they mean and don't mean. I'm gonna leave that in there as,
I
sort of
would
a future direction or something.
give people hope that they can identify their own.
So I'm just gonna, in the near future, I'm just gonna leave that in there and take out the rest of it.
One significant thing that I would like to see us address in some fashion is the fact that this exists. And because I think it's valuable, and but I think we need to be careful, and I've said that. But I think that, and what probably wouldn't be good is for somebody to make the accusation that this is an example of things being done behind people's back. That we don't want to have.
No.
And so I think we need to have further discussion and have a course of action that doesn't do that. And if that's the outcome of this, I'm sure to say, wow, that is really too bad.
Well, I agree with you, George. And the concept, I think if we have the map and it sits up, and if we posted the map on the town website, so someone will call it up and look at it. And then we have it posted during the meeting, and we, with a decent size, with a pointer, we could talk about pretty much anything here. And I wouldn't feel like we're hiding anything from anybody at that point. If your point is that this is valuable, so people don't think that they're being hoodwinked, I agree.
I think it's valuable.
Yeah.
I think there's a dynamic force in this community and in most communities that people think that government or government agencies or people getting together do things behind people's back.
Yeah,
Right, that's a behavior. We've seen it and so forth, and
we've seen it.
And I suggest that maybe there's a way here to, to do something about that.
This map is 3 by 3 feet by 4.5 feet.
Mm-hmm.
My idea in the end is to, I've got a good 4 foot wide printed, so it would be something that was, that much bigger than this. But, so people get rid of all the stuff we don't need, use all this space. Take one of these, that one, size, so it's viewable. Here, put arrow, so people have a better sense of where it is. So we do that for here. I don't know about the villages, they're a little bit more involved, but these other little ones there. But also take in a bulletproof, bulletproof.
Point.
Thank you. Guess I was.
I really think it ahead.
That's
to
back
have-
and positive.
But to have something on the side here, that, again, I really think people need to know what they can, you gotta distinguish Act 250 versus what you can do. The simple homeowner is a simple one, top of the line. If you're not part of Act 250, because the town has no ordinances, you can, all you have to do is obey wastewater rules. That's it. Nothing else.
Okay, what?
Wastewater,
Oh, yeah.
that's it. So for everybody that's not doing, if that's big bold letters right in the top, then people, no ordinance. And you can get rid of a lot of conversations on that one. That's really where the town is, single family not an
Yeah.
M2.
But would you consider an ordinance for developers?
I'm sorry?
But we would have an ordinance for developers built from
No,
this at some
well,
point.
that's an issue of itself that the select board have to decide what they're gonna do. All I'm saying is, you would say, if there's no ordinance in town, you do what you want as long as you meet the state water
I think
standards,
that's,
period.
because a lot of people just don't get the difference.
Right,
Yeah, it ought to be,
but I think you can fit that on a 4-foot sheet of paper, a 4-foot wide sheet of paper. But that's the problem. If it's online, wonderful. People are gonna be on their screens, by blowing up sections, and maybe they'll go to their section, or maybe they'll go to their property by just blowing the screen up. I don't know, but I think whatever goes out needs to have those basic items.
Mhm.
It's almost in a way, a visual summary of the town plan,
it'd be interesting if it could be an overlay of the tax map or mounted beside it or something.
That is a big problem because
Yeah,
it's got its own software. I
Yeah, I'm
like
sure it does.
Stacy, she's very helpful. I broke with her about how it can work in, but everybody's got their budgets, everybody's got their list of things to do.
Yeah, so I'm sitting here thinking that, what's the link between the survey and this?
Well, we just say that this came after we did the survey.
Yeah,
We always do this, I mean, hey, right above, the disclaimer about, homeowners only, you can put that, this survey is based on a survey, and the survey can be found at the town website.
Mhm.
But to me, it's a work of quality and value. That's
And effort.
basically, based on the population of the town and how it sees, where people are and what they do. And it's part of the dynamic of the town, probably the two.
On that very front, there's a woman, her name is Ortega. Did you, anybody, of all the, of one piece of goodness that came out of the recent past, someone bitched that town survey, I never saw any such thing.
Yeah.
And she came right.
It was nicely redirected,
Nicely.
all good. But that's education.
Yeah.
That's addressing someone's specific question by here's the source. So that's part of what you have been championing all tonight. Is that I believe if you take the question away before it has a chance to be asked, it can be asked in a different way that gives you the depth that you're looking for. And I think that's something that would work.
I would change the way you just described it, is so it doesn't have a chance to fester.
It's heading it off at the pass. There's no question about it. And that's exactly what you're doing. That's the positive part. So I would agree that what we do here is you move forward with this, that we just take a moment and figure out where, how many 4 or 5 bullets you want for each, or 3 bullets, or whatever it happens to be. May not have to be every single one, it may be just enough so that you sort of answered the question before it's asked. I think you get the great idea, and it would bring that map to life for them. Sorry, but I
Thanks,
have
George.
a previous,
Dinner date,
so before George gets fully out of here, is it, based on our conversation, Jay is going to go back and continue to refine this. And as he moves forward, as sections of this map that we have already discussed are finished, then they can be entered into the town plan, because we're not changing anything, we're just getting them in the form to go in here. So we don't have to come back and, have an approval process for that. And then that'll allow me to work with Jay to get them in the document. Then you will be able to see them in the document, and then we can move from that point forward. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Is there any value to a motion to that effect? Because I will vote for it before I leave. If you.
Yeah, that's part of what I was trying to think
Okay.
through, so we have the 5
Well,
here.
let's, what is the motion?
I move that we accept the map as Jay has presented it. And that as he refines his color coding just a little and works with Two Rivers, and then ultimately works with me, that,
Scott, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to.
no, you're fine, that we would end up with the maps as we have already discussed and approved in our town plan draft, so that the commission could look at that in its final form.
I would say,
It's a lot of words.
yeah, I know. Why don't we drop out the Two Rivers and me part and just say, as the map is developed further based on tonight's conversation? I mean,
Yeah,
Okay,
I don't, to tell you the truth, I may not even go, I was just thinking how I could do the map without Two Rivers,
okay.
because it's just another complication.
The other part is that then when Two Rivers does look at it, if they chose to add their 2 cents to that, then we could do it at that time. All right.
okay,
Did you second? Or-
So he amended it or rephrased it some.
okay.
Basically, we've approved this.
This is
Jay's going to.
the
work-
touchstone, right?
Jay's gonna work the map with me so that we can come in with a part of it in the document for you.
Okay. Need a second.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Opposed? It's passed.
How do I, right, that's what, how do I get, out of here? Do I do it?
I'm afraid so.
I move to,
All those in favor?
Next meeting,
Yeah,
I gotta say, I'm pretty burnt out attending meetings. I don't care if there's a deadline, whenever it is, I'm getting burnt out on this.
the deadline's May, so.
I know, but I don't.